Naomi Cross stood in the back of a candlelit church wearing a red silk gown, watching her ex-husband kiss her best friend under a white floral arch candles flickered across marble columns. Guests applauded. The officiant beamed like he was witnessing true love. What Naomi didn't know was that the most dangerous man in New York was standing right beside her, close enough to whisper in her ear. He wasn't there for the wedding. He was there for her. And before the ceremony ends, Naomi's going to discover something every woman who's ever been used needs to know. The difference between someone who takes from you and someone who stands with you. But to understand why a Korean Mafia boss would crash a wedding for an event planner he met only once, we need to go back to the moment Naomi made a choice that would save his life and unknowingly set her own freedom in motion. If you're ready for this story, like this video and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because this story is for every woman who gave everything to the wrong people and got erased in return. 7 years ago, Naomi thought she'd found a partner. Instead, she found a man who would steal everything she built and hand it to her best friend. But we're not starting there. We're starting at the end. Or what Naomi thought was the end. The ceremony was almost over. 7 years ago, Naomi met Ethan Cole at a tech networking mixer in Soho. She planned the whole event, secured the venue, coordinated the catering, made sure every startup founder had exactly 3 minutes to pitch investors before the timer buzzed. She was 25, hungry, building her event planning business one corporate happy hour at a time. Ethan was 27, charming in that effortless way some men are, and completely broke. His first startup had just crashed. Investors had pulled out. His co-founder had quit. He stood alone by the bar, nursing a beer he probably couldn't afford, looking like someone who'd lost everything but wasn't ready to admit it yet. Naomi introduced herself. They talked for 2 hours. By the end of the night, she believed in him. That was her first mistake. Within 6 months, Ethan had moved into her Hell's Kitchen apartment, rent-free. He was bootstrapping his second startup, some kind of project management software for creative teams. It needed funding. It needed connections. It needed Naomi. She gave him everything. Her savings became his operating budget. $40,000 for the first venture. $35,000 for the second when that one failed. $45,000 for the third. She worked 70-hour weeks planning corporate events, tech conferences, product launches, events where her contacts sat on panels, where venture capitalists scouted deals, where the people with money made decisions about who deserved a chance. Naomi introduced Ethan to all of them. Her network became his advisory board. Her credibility became his access. And every single time she mentioned her own dream, building a luxury event planning firm specializing in high-end corporate galas, Ethan would smile that patient smile and say, "That's nice, babe, but it's not really scalable, you know? You can only be in one place at a time." So Naomi kept planning other people's events while Ethan chased his vision. She meal prepped his lunches. She listened to his stress at 2 a.m. when he couldn't sleep. She told him he was brilliant when investors said no. She held him together through 3 failures, 3 pivots, 3 versions of "this time will be different." Then came startup number 4, a productivity app that actually worked. Clean design, solid user base, real revenue. Ethan pitched it to a venture capital firm Naomi had introduced him to 6 months earlier. They loved it. Series B funding, $8 million valuation. Naomi cried when she heard. Finally, the sacrifice was paying off. 2 weeks later, Ethan handed her divorce papers over breakfast. No warning, no conversation. Just, "I need to be with someone who understands the life I'm building now. You're amazing, Naomi, but we want different things." 1 month after that, he was dating Maya. Maya Reed, Naomi's best friend since college. The woman Naomi had called crying after every failed startup, every investor rejection, every lonely night when Ethan was too stressed to notice her. Maya, who'd always said, "You deserve so much better than this." Turns out she meant herself. The wedding invitation arrived 3 months later. Cream cardstock, gold lettering, Maya's handwriting on the note inside. "I hope you can be happy for us." Naomi held that card for 20 minutes, reading those words over and over, waiting to feel something other than numb. She never did. Back at the wedding, Naomi watched Jamin disappear into the crowd of guests. Her hand still felt warm where he'd pressed a business card into her palm. She looked down at it. Simple black cardstock. A single phone number in silver. No name. No title. Just a way to reach him when she was ready. If she was ready. The memory he'd mentioned came back to her now. Sharp and clear. 3 years ago. The Plaza Hotel. A corporate gala for a tech investment firm. Naomi had been managing the whole event. 400 guests, open bar, live jazz band, speeches from 3 CEOs. Everything was running perfectly until it wasn't. A distinguished guest collapsed near the dessert table. Just went down hard, no warning. People screamed. Glasses shattered. The event coordinator grabbed Naomi's arm and hissed, "Get him out of sight. This looks terrible." Security moved in, trying to lift the man by his shoulders, trying to drag him toward a back hallway where the guests wouldn't see. Naomi stepped between them. "Stop. He's not breathing." She dropped to her knees in her black cocktail dress and started CPR, chest compressions, counting out loud. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. The venue manager stood over her, practically shaking with anger. "Miss Cross, you need to let security handle this. We have protocols." "Your protocol is going to kill him," Naomi said without stopping. "Someone call 911. She kept going. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Her arms burned. Sweat dripped down her back. Guests were staring now, pulling out phones, whispering. The coordinator looked like she wanted to die. Then the man gasped. His chest rose. His eyes fluttered open. Paramedics arrived 4 minutes later. They loaded him onto a stretcher, hooked him oxygen, and rushed him out through the service entrance. Naomi never got his name. She had an event to save. She spent the next 2 hours calming guests, reassuring the investment firm partners, making sure the night didn't completely fall apart. By the time she got home at 2 a.m., she'd almost forgotten about the man entirely, but he hadn't forgotten about her. Now, standing in this church watching her ex-husband marry her ex-best friend, Naomi understood. Jamin Khan had been that man, and he'd been poisoned, left to die in public as some kind of message. She'd save him anyway. "You saved me when it would have been easier to let me die," he'd said. His voice had been steady, certain, like he'd been waiting 3 years to say those exact words. He'd been searching for her, and when he saw the wedding announcement in the New York Times, saw her name listed as friend of the bride, he knew this wasn't a celebration. It was an execution. Naomi slipped a business card into her clutch. Her hands were shaking. Behind her, Maya and Ethan were cutting the cake, feeding each other bites, laughing for the cameras. And somewhere in this church, a dangerous man with a neck tattoo had just offered Naomi Cross something she hadn't felt in 7 years. Power. Naomi made a home at midnight. Her Chelsea apartment was small, a studio with exposed brick, and a Murphy bed she'd bought from IKEA. Nothing like the Tribeca loft she'd shared with Ethan. That place had floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Hudson River. This place had a view of a fire escape, but it was hers. Her name on the lease. Her money paying the rent. No one could take it from her. She kicked off her heels and sat on the edge of her bed, still wearing the red gown. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Maya in that white dress, saw Ethan smile, heard the applause. She grabbed her phone and started scrolling through emails, work stuff mostly, client follow-ups, vendor invoices, nothing important, just something to do that wasn't thinking. Then she saw it, a notification from her business bank account. Low balance alert. Naomi's stomach dropped. She opened her banking app with shaking fingers and logged in. Account balance, $3,247. That couldn't be right. Last month, she'd had over $90,000 in that account. Money she'd saved from 3 years of steady bookings. Money she was planning to use to finally launch her own luxury event firm. She clicked on transaction history. Her breath stopped. $85,000 missing. Withdrawn over the past 6 months in chunks. $15,000 here. $20,000 there. $12,000. $18,000. $20,000. Every single withdrawal was marked Authorized User. Ethan, They'd opened that business account together 5 years ago when Naomi was still planning events, and Ethan was pretending to help with client outreach. He'd had signature authority back then. She'd never removed it after the divorce. She clicked on the transaction details, her hands trembling so hard she almost dropped the phone. Wedding venue deposit, $22,000. The St. Regis. Honeymoon package to Bali, $18,000. 2 weeks at a private resort. Tiffany & Company, $15,000. Engagement ring, Vera Wang Boutique, $12,000. Wedding dress, florist, photographer, catering, custom invitations with gold lettering. Every single piece of that wedding had been paid for with Naomi's money. She sat on the floor of her tiny apartment, phone in her lap, staring at the numbers on the screen. The red gown pooled around her like blood. Maya's dress, Ethan's ring, the honeymoon. They were leaving for tomorrow morning. All of it bought with what Naomi had built, what she'd saved, what she'd earned. She pulled Jamin's business card out of her clutch, stared at the silver phone number embossed on black cardstock. It was 2 a.m. She called anyway. He picked up on the second ring. His voice was alert, like he'd been waiting. Naomi, I need help. Her voice cracked. But I need to do this myself. There was a pause. Then his response, calm and certain. I'll connect you to someone who'll show you how. Why? She whispered. Why are you helping me? His answer was simple. Final. Because you fought for me when no one else would. Now I'm returning the favor. Naomi closed her eyes. For the first time in 7 years, she wasn't alone. And Ethan Cole had no idea what was coming. Monday morning, Naomi sat in a glass office tower in Midtown, waiting to meet Christine Park. Jamin had made the introduction. Christine was a white-collar crime attorney who specialized in financial fraud. Her office had views of Central Park and walls covered in framed court victories. Christine was sharp, mid-40s, wearing a charcoal suit. She listened to everything without interrupting. Then she opened her laptop. Let me dig. For the next 3 weeks, Christine investigated. What she found made the stolen $85,000 look like nothing. Ethan had copied Naomi's entire client database before the divorce. Every contact, every email, every contract template. He downloaded it all onto an external hard drive 2 days before he handed her the divorce papers. But it got worse. Christine found forged contracts, deals signed in Naomi's name by Ethan and Maya. They'd book corporate events, promised Naomi would handle everything, then never deliver. Clients would call Naomi furious. She'd have no idea what they were talking about. Her reputation tanked while Ethan and Maya swooped in, apologizing, offering to fix the mess at a discount. Then Christine found the emails, messages between Ethan and Maya going back 8 months, before the divorce was even finalized. Make her look unreliable, then swoop in as a stable alternative. Once her clients think she's flaky, they'll come to us. This is almost too easy. Naomi read those words sitting in Christine's office and felt something inside her break. Not sadness, not grief, something colder, rage. Christine filed criminal complaints that same week. Embezzlement, fraud, identity theft. Then came the civil lawsuit. Stolen intellectual property, defamation, tortious interference with business relationships. The social fallout started immediately. Former mutual friends called, voices tight with discomfort. Can't you just move on? This is making everyone uncomfortable. It's a wedding, Naomi. Don't ruin it over money. Maya called crying. How can you destroy our happiness? We're in love. This is our fresh start. Naomi hung up without saying a word. Then Ethan's lawyer called. Settlement offer. They'd return $85,000. Naomi would sign an NDA, and everyone could move on quietly. Clean, private, no public scandal. Christine looked at Naomi across her desk. It's your call. We can take the settlement and be done. Or we can go all the way, criminal trial, civil court, public records. Naomi thought about 7 years of sacrifice, thought about $120,000 in savings poured into Ethan's dreams, thought about her network handed over like a gift, thought about Maya's performance of friendship while she positioned herself as a replacement, Thought about those emails. This is almost too easy. I'm not going quietly, Naomi said. Her voice was steady. Certain. I'm going on the record. Christine smiled. Good. Let's bury them. Across town, Ethan and Maya were returning from their Bali honeymoon, posting sunset photos on Instagram, completely unaware that their perfect new life was about to collapse. The video went up on a Tuesday morning. Maya was sitting in a cream cardigan, her hair soft around her face, tears sliding down her cheeks like she practiced them. The caption read, "Trying to heal while someone keeps tearing it open." She didn't use Naomi's name. She didn't have to. Their shared world was small enough that everyone knew exactly who she meant. By Thursday, it had 40,000 views. Naomi found out the way she found out everything now. Through silence. A client she'd worked with for 3 years stopped returning her emails. Then another. Then a third, who at least had the decency to send a one-line message. "We need to keep our brand away from ongoing legal situations. We wish you well." Ongoing legal situations. As if Naomi had created the problem by refusing to be quiet about it. The mutual friends were worse. They didn't say anything to her face. They just kept posting couple photos of Ethan and Maya at brunch, at gallery openings, at the kind of events Naomi used to plan. Heart emojis in the comments. So happy for you both. Nobody posted about the court filing. Nobody asked her side. The story had already been written, and she was the villain in it. The industry whispers followed quickly. Naomi's unstable. The accusations are false. She's bitter. She can't let go. She's trying to destroy 2 people from moving on. Email stopped. Referrals dried up. She watched her business account the way you watch a fire burn through something you built. Unable to stop it, unable to look away. $8,000. That was what was left after legal fees, after 2 months of fighting, after doing everything right. Her 32nd birthday fell on a Wednesday in October. She didn't plan anything. There was no one left to plan with. She sat on her apartment floor with her back against the couch. Takeout containers she hadn't ordered, yet still a fantasy. The city noise bleeding through the window. She thought about the version of herself who had stood in that church 2 months ago, trembling and certain and just barely holding it together. She wondered if that woman had known how much harder it would get before it got better. The knock came at 7:15. Jae-min was standing in her hallway with a brown paper bag and a bottle of wine she would later learn cost more than her first paycheck. He didn't say happy birthday. He didn't ask if she was okay. He just looked at her like he already knew the answer and said, "Move over." He sat on the floor beside her. He poured the wine into 2 mismatched glasses he found in her cabinet. He didn't offer money. He didn't offer to fix it. He just stayed. At some point, she started crying. He didn't try to stop her. "You're doing the hardest thing," he said quietly. "Standing alone. Most people break." He looked at her. "You're not most people." She didn't say anything back. She didn't need to. For the first time in months, someone was sitting in the dark with her, not to pull her out of it, but just to make sure she didn't have to be there alone. The courtroom smelled like old wood and cold air. Naomi had chosen her outfit the night before with the same focus she used to give to event layouts. Every detail intentional. Navy suit, hair pulled back clean, small gold earrings, nothing more. She looked like someone who had nothing to hide, because she didn't. Christine Park had spent 3 weeks preparing her for this room. "Don't perform," she'd said. "Don't cry. Don't smile. Don't let them see you react. The evidence is the weapon. You're just the one holding it." Naomi held it. The prosecutor laid everything out piece by piece, slow and deliberate. The way you build something that's meant to last. First came the bank records. 6 months of withdrawals, each one signed by Ethan's hand on an account that had stopped being as the day the divorce finalized. The venue deposit, the honeymoon, the ring, the dress. Every line item a small, quiet theft. Then came the emails, pulled from Discovery, message threads between Ethan and Maya, clinical in their planning. Make her look unreliable, and we take the clients. Give it 2 months. The jury read them in silence. Several of them stopped looking at Ethan after that. The forged signatures came next. Contract signed in Naomi's name after the divorce, for work she never agreed to. That was never done. 3 clients testified that Maya and Ethan had told them Naomi was unstable, difficult, someone to avoid. The same word from 3 different mouths. Christine noted that for the jury. When Naomi took the stand, the room went still. She spoke the way she had learned to survive. Clearly, without extra words, without apology, she explained the 7 years. The money she had moved from her own savings to keep his ventures breathing. The network she had handed to him, without a second thought, because she believed in him. She described a moment the divorce papers arrived. 2 weeks after his company's biggest funding round. Not a coincidence, not a mistake. I funded his dreams for 7 years, she said. The moment he succeeded, I became disposable. She looked once at Maya, who was seated beside her attorney in a pale blouse, eyes already glassy. She performed friendship while gathering intelligence. Every confidence I shared was ammunition. Maya cried on the stand. It was a good performance, soft voice, shaking hands, the suggestion of a woman wrongly accused. Christine took her apart in 11 minutes. Dates that didn't match. Messages she couldn't explain. A timeline that collapsed under its own weight. The verdict came back guilty on all counts. 2 years probation. $85,000 in restitution. Community service. The civil judgment added $150,000 more. Naomi watched Ethan's face in the moment. He understood what the verdict meant for his investors. She had seen that look before. The exact expression of a man realizing the foundation beneath him was gone. She felt nothing except clear. The headline ran on a Friday morning. Tech founder convicted of defrauding ex-wife who funded his rise. By noon, it had been picked up by 4 industry publications. By evening, Ethan's investors had seen it. The first funding withdrawal came through over the weekend. A quiet pull, no public statement. Just money leaving the way money does when it no longer feels safe. Then another, then the lead investor, the one whose backing had made Ethan feel untouchable, sent a single paragraph to the board and walked away. The company valuation, which had climbed to $8 million on the back of Naomi's contacts and Naomi's credibility, began to fall the way tall things fall, fast and with a lot of noise. Maya's wedding planning brand didn't survive the week. Sponsors dropped her one after another. Each announcement worded carefully, nobody saying her name directly, everyone understanding exactly what it meant. The tearful videos she had posted about toxic exes disappeared from her page. Then the page itself went quiet. The Tribeca apartment, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows and the view Naomi used to admire when she visited, back when she still believed Maya was her friend, was listed within the month. They moved to Queens. No announcement, no caption. The phone calls started coming in the 3rd week. Former clients, one by one, with the same careful tone. We saw the evidence. We owe you an apology. We should have asked more questions. Naomi accepted the apologies briefly and without performance. She didn't tell them it was fine because it wasn't. She didn't tell them she understood because she wasn't sure she did. But she took the calls, and she took notes, and she began to see the shape of what came next. She was sitting in her new office, small, spare, 2 desks and a window that faced a brick wall. When Maya walked in, she looked different without the performance. Smaller, somehow. She stood near the door like she wasn't sure she had the right to come further in, which was the first honest thing Naomi had seen from her in years. I lost everything, Maya said. My reputation, my business, my friends. Her voice broke cleanly on the last word. Can we talk? Maybe find some kind of way forward. Naomi set down her pen. You didn't lose everything, Maya. Her voice was even, unhurried. You lost what you stole. There's a difference. Maya opened her mouth. You were my friend, Naomi continued. You were my understudy. You were waiting for your turn in my life. And the moment you saw an opening, you took it. The silence between them was total. I'm not your redemption arc, Naomi said. Find someone else to forgive you. Maya left. Naomi sat for a moment in the quiet of her small office, the brick wall outside her window catching the afternoon light. She waited for the guilt to arrive. It didn't come. What came instead felt a great deal like freedom. She named it Cross Events. No partner's name attached. No hyphen, no compromise. Just hers, clean and simple, the way she intended everything to be from this point forward. The first call came from a tech CEO named Daniel Cho, who had followed the trial coverage from his office in Midtown and decided that a woman who could hold herself together under that kind of pressure was exactly the kind of person he wanted running his company's events. He didn't mention the case directly. He didn't have to. He just said, "I've heard you're the best." And Naomi said, "I am." And that was that. She built her team slowly and deliberately. Some of them she had mentored before the divorce. Young planners who had been quietly pushed out of opportunities. When Ethan and Maya's whisper campaign spread through the industry, she called them one by one, told them what she was building and what she needed. Every single one said yes. The first major event was a product launch for a Fortune 500 company. 400 guests, 2 venues, a production timeline that would have stressed a team twice her size. They executed it without a single visible error. The client sent flowers the next morning and a contract for 3 more events by the end of the week. By the end of the first quarter, Cross Events had brought in $200,000, more than Naomi had ever earned splitting everything down the middle with a man who was quietly planning her replacement. New York Magazine called in month 7. The profile ran under the headline, "The Event Planner Who Built an Empire from Betrayal." Naomi had asked them to change the framing. They kept it. She decided, reading it in print, that she didn't mind. It was true, and she had stopped being afraid of true things. The restitution payments arrived on the 1st of every month, court-ordered and automatic, the first time she deposited one. She sat in her car outside the bank for a long moment. Then she went inside and opened a savings account in her name only, the first one she had ever held alone, and transferred $50,000 into it. She sat with that number for a while. It felt like solid ground. The gallery in Chelsea was small and private, the kind of place that didn't have a sign outside. J-Men had reserved it for the evening. They walked through it slowly, not saying much, the way people do when they are comfortable enough not to fill every silence. He stopped in front of a large canvas, dark, layered, something that took a moment to understand. "I can't promise you safety," he said. "My world is dangerous. That won't change." She waited, "But I can promise honesty, respect, and that I will never need you to be smaller than you are." Naomi looked at the painting for another moment. "I spent 7 years with someone who promised safety and delivered betrayal," she said. "I'll take honesty." When he kissed her, it felt nothing like being rescued. It felt like standing on equal ground. Finally, completely, with someone who had never once asked her to shrink. A year changes everything, if you let it. Cross Events had a team of 8 now. Not 8 people Naomi had settled for, 8 people she had chosen carefully. The way you choose materials for something you intend to last. They filled a proper office space in Lower Manhattan, and the quarterly revenue had held steady at 6 figures for 3 consecutive months. There were weeks now where Naomi forgot to be afraid. That was new. That was everything. The Soho loft had floor-to-ceiling windows that caught the morning light and held it. Her name was on the lease. Her money had paid the deposit. She had stood in the empty space the first day, before the furniture arrived, and just let herself be still inside it. No one else's vision. No one else's compromise. Every wall, every corner, every window. Hers. The industry had a short memory for scandal and a long one for excellence. By month 10, Naomi was being asked to speak on panels. She mentored 3 young planners who reminded her of who she had been before she learned to make herself small, ambitious, slightly too earnest, not yet aware of how much that would cost them. She told them what she wished someone had told her. She told them their ambition was not a problem to be managed. It was the point. The messages from former friends arrived in a cluster, as if they had coordinated. "We made a mistake. Could we get coffee sometime?" She read each one once. She didn't feel anger, which surprised her. She felt something closer to clarity. Some bridges don't need to be repaired. Some of them should stay burned, so you remember why you walked away. She blocked them without ceremony and went back to work. She heard about Ethan the way you hear about whether in a city you no longer live in, distant, irrelevant. A mid-level sales job somewhere in New Jersey. Restitution payments still arriving on the 1st of every month. There were tabloid whispers about cracks in the marriage, but Naomi didn't follow the story. She had stopped measuring her progress against their collapse somewhere around month 6, when she realized she was too busy building to keep looking back. Maya had moved home to Connecticut. Her social media was gone. Naomi wished her nothing, not harm, not healing, just absence. The gala was for 500 guests, a Fortune 500 annual dinner, the kind of event Naomi had imagined running since she was 24 years old and planning other people's visions. She was at her desk reviewing the final layout when Jae-min came in with her coffee, set it beside her hand, and kissed her forehead without breaking her concentration. "You didn't need saving," he said quietly. "You just needed someone to believe you could save yourself." She smiled without looking up. She didn't get revenge. She got free. And somewhere along the way, she learned that the opposite of betrayal isn't forgiveness. It's boundaries. The people who destroy you don't deserve your healing. They deserve your absence. And the most powerful thing Naomi Cross ever did was decide that her energy, her time, and her extraordinary life were no longer available to people who had proven they would waste them. She picked up her pen. She had a gala to build.